This is Kathy from Gadgets Top 321, and in today's video I'm going to be taking a look at Noodler's X Feather. I'll be testing it in a variety of pins and nib sizes ranging from a Pilot Extra Fine to a 1.5 stub nib. And I've said before that really dark saturated black inks I enjoy using in my really fine nibs like my Sailor Pro Gear Slim. And I'm curious to see how well X Feather works. Noodler's known for their many of their inks having unique properties, so I'm curious to see how well X Feather works. I'm going to begin with my Pilot 78G with a stainless steel extra fine nib, and I better put on my glasses. All right. Okay. This seems to be pretty pleasant. All right. I wouldn't mind writing an entire page with this pen. It's not scratchy and it's not unpleasant, so I'm going to go ahead and put that. That was a nice combination. And next I've got the fine nib in my Sailor Pro Gear Slim. This was a unique ink. Some inks tend to stick to the nib kind of like paint, will coat it like paint, and some just drip off like water. And this ink in my gold plated Pilot 78G, not a drop of ink stuck to it, but I guess this is rhodium plated. Rhodium? Yeah, my rhodium plated gold nib here, it just really stuck to it bad, and you can see even after I wiped it off, you might be able to see. I wouldn't call that staining because it'll just wash off with water, but I just thought that was interesting how different nib materials will hold on to the ink. And I wonder if that will affect the flow of the ink or the performance. I don't really have enough experience with it to tell. But this pen, this fine nib on this Tomoe River paper, that was nice. I like it. And I like the fine nib better than the extra fine just because the line it's still a nice fine line and it fits easily in these really tight grids, but it's just bold enough that it makes it easier to read. And I'm going to go ahead and add my Sailor LeCool to the rotation for this writing sample. This has the same nib that the Sailor Compass has. Now the Compass, I think, is basically the exact same pen as this, but it's got rounded top and bottom. This is shaped more like the Pro Gear that I just showed you, but the Compass has this simple Sailor stainless steel nib. And let's see. And this is labeled a medium fine. Now, the tipping on this nib is different, shaped differently. I'm not going to write, it performed nicely, it wrote nicely, but these nibs have, let me see if it'll focus on it, just a big blob of tipping at the end. And it still writes a really fine line because it's round, but you can feel that it's just shaped kind of weird. I don't know, writing with that nib compared to writing with the fine nib on the gold Sailor nibs, See, it's shaped a little bit different. It's not completely round. It's kind of got an angle to it the way it's ground. And the gold nibs and the stainless steel Pro Color nibs, the Pro Color nibs look like these. They've got the same designs on them and everything. And the tipping on it is shaped like the gold nibs, and I find that they perform very similarly. I'm just not a big fan of the nib that's on the LeCoultre and Compass. Next, I've got my Platinum 3776 with a medium nib. Make sure I'm in focus. And you can see that this medium nib is quite a bit bolder than the fine and the medium fine Sailor. It's starting to get a little too bold just for my taste, but the writing experience was nice. I would say, you know, a medium nib like this, as far as my preferences go, for making little entries in a planner would be nice. I just don't like journaling with, you know, that bold of a black line. Okay, next I've got my Quebeco Percao. This also has a medium nib. And it's got a little bit of feedback, but because it's a medium nib, you've got so much surface area. It's very pleasant. So I'm going to put nice for that one also. This X Feather is a more saturated black than Noodler's black. I'll compare the two in a minute. But can't really tell on this paper whether it's going to be how well the X Feather part works, because this Tomoe River paper ink doesn't tend to feather on it, but we'll look at some other papers. Okay, next I have my Pilot Metropolitan with a cursive medium nib. Now this is noticeably smoother than the other nibs I've used so far. So I'll go ahead and put that this one was smooth. And one more nib, one more pen. My Jinhao X750 with a 1.5 stub nib. Now Noodler's black had one of the longer dry times I've ever experienced on these writing samples. So we'll see when we come back if there are any wet spots remaining. While that's drying, let's take a look at my ARC notebook paper, which is a more absorbent paper. And on the stub nib, it wasn't terrible compared to other inks, but I am seeing some feathering, and where you can really notice it is on the side strokes here. And let me see, I was going to compare it to Colorverse Dark Energy. See how crisp the side strokes are? And on X Feather, side strokes look a little feathery, just a little bit. And if I compare that, oh, this one's Noodler's black. Hold on, that's Noodler's black. The side strokes are a little feathery. Let's look at our X Feather. They look like they might be even more feathery than the Noodler's black. Not a lot of difference. It wasn't a terrible, but I'm not seeing anything that makes it any more exceptional than other well-behaved inks. And you can see X Feather's a little bit more black. Noodler's black is almost off black. It's got a little bit of brown to it. I did a water sample in a previous video, and I compared Sailor Gentle Black, Aurora Black. This was Diamine Onyx Black that just completely washed away. Noodler's Black looks like it held onto the paper the best. X Feather, when the water hit it, you can see just the faintest halo of color that kind of washed and came loose. On Rhodia paper, the performance was similar. Well, it did a little bit. The extra fine wasn't quite as smooth as it was on the Tomoe River paper, but the rest of them performed similarly. On the Sailor Licool, I didn't make a note of anything. It was pleasant it was okay to write with. Like I mentioned, that nib I just don't find very pleasant. And the ink you're using does affect it, so I'll use it in a few more ink samples of other inks. On my, let's see, this is 20-pound copy paper, and my extra fine felt scratchy. It looks good. The readback on it is just as good as the Pro Gear Slim. The Pro Gear Slim was nice with a little bit of feedback to it, and that was pretty much the same on all the papers. And I like using a nice bold black ink in a fine nib. The Platinum was just a little bit too wet for this paper. You could feel it kind of spreading. And what I noticed was, instead of it feathering when it spread, it just kind of spread out pretty evenly. So, maybe, I don't know, but so did the Dark Energy. Let's see about. So there's the side strokes on Noodler's Black. I don't know, it looks like X Feather spread out more than the Noodler's Black did. Let's see how it did on Bleed Through. Not bad compared to Noodler's Black and X Feather. It looks like the medium nib came through a little bit worse. I don't know, so it looks like this bleeds through the paper worse than just the regular Noodler's Black. I would not have guessed that. And on my Leuchtturm, here you can see that Noodler's Black is more Noodler's X Feather is more saturated than Noodler's Black. And I think Aurora Black, let's see if I can fit that on there. Aurora Black is a more saturated black than both of them. You can tell by the smear. The smear is black. The smear is, even on X Feather, is just slightly off black. Let's see. I'm not seeing any sheen. It's nice and flat. But on the Aurora Black, I don't know if you'll be able to see it here. My lighting's kind of weird right now. But Aurora Black did have a little bit of a sheen to it. And let's see if anything is still wet. No, it dried. So it looks like the dry time, I don't know, I'm talking a little bit longer. The dry time seems to be better than just the regular Noodler's Black. This is a nice ink to use on good fountain pen friendly paper. It performed nice in all the nibs. But on your non-fountain pen friendly paper, copy paper, I didn't notice a tremendous benefit. let me know if you've had a different experience. If you found this video helpful, please give me a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more videos like this, please subscribe to my channel.